So to JT Talks Jobs. This is the show that teaches you everything school didn't when it comes to job search and career growth. My name's JT O'Donnell. I'm the founder and CEO of Work It Daily. And today we're specifically talking to people over the age of 50 about the COVID-19 pandemic and how that's going to affect them and their careers, certainly during it and after. So before I get started with that, I want to remind you of a couple of things though. First of all, we did a webinar last week. It was a free webinar and had over 2,000 people sign up and watch it. It's called Laid Off and Looking. And it's all about your strategy and your game plan so that you can really prepare yourself to work smarter, not harder in your job search. We've got that link for you here. We'd love to share it with you. We want to get it in the hands of as many people who are dealing with layoffs as a result of this crisis, because we want them to have the right mindset. So if you know somebody that's been affected, please share the link with them. If you've been affected, please share the link. You'll have to pop your email address in because we give you a big PDF. We give you a PDF full of information and an outline, and that's how we're able to ship it to you, okay? All right, and the second thing I wanted to mention is that for those of you that don't know, every month inside the Work It Daily platform, our members have access to a brand new training. And next week's training is called How to Get Unstuck in Your Job Search. And what it is an opportunity for you to diagnose the specific places in your job search where you're the weakest, where you could be bottlenecking and holding yourself back. So again, this will be starting next week, and you just need to be a current member of Work It Daily. So you may want to check that out. Honestly, for less than the money you spend on coffee every week, you can have a full month access to our program. You get all of our courses, you get our live training, you get access to coaches one-on-one, and you get to be part of a really inspiring community of like-minded professionals. So I hope you'll check that out as well, because that training is going to be amazing. All right. So I really want to get down to the business of this. We've got a lot to cover with all of you out there. I'm going to bring my slides up. I brought some things up that I wanted to share with you so that you could see. So let's get that there. Wonderful. All right. So first thing I want to say, today we're talking to the over 50 crew, but I want you to know that there's not a single age group that's not going to be impacted by COVID, by the economic crisis, by everything that's happening right now. In fact, this article written by a colleague of mine, Robert Glazer, here on LinkedIn, talks about the permanent change that's going to happen for every generation, for every age group. And it's a really great article. I encourage you to go over, check it out. In fact, follow Robert on LinkedIn. He does a newsletter series several times a week. He's talking about these things. And I thought it was super insightful what he wrote here, because it's going to help you understand that there's not just one age group being singled out. I think all of us feel that way, right? We're focused on our needs and what we need to survive, and it can feel like we have the greatest disadvantage. But as Robert points out in a very balanced way, we're all being impacted. All good. There's some, good things that are actually coming out of it for each of us, and there's some bad things that are coming out of it for each of us. So it's important to understand those things and just recognize you're not the only one, you're not the only age group. So definitely check that article out. But that being said, here on our site, on our platform, we hear a lot of concern right now from people over the age of 50, and we thought it was important that we address that. So let's just get on the same page about the perceptions of older workers, of more seasoned professionals. Now, don't shoot the messenger here. Don't be angry. Let's just make sure we're all starting at the same baseline of knowledge, which is, if you're going to be criticized in some way as a seasoned professional, if there's a chance that you're being discriminated against, then it's probably because this is how you are perceived. That age group is perceived. First of all, older workers have been around longer. They've been increasing their wages over time. Therefore, the default thought process is that they cost more. And you might say to yourself, but I'll take less pay. I need a job. That's fine. But you have to understand the hiring managers are thinking the moment something better comes along, the moment you can make more money someplace else, you're going to go there. And they have to hire you and train you and invest in you. So it doesn't make sense to them on the surface to hire you when they know that you're probably going to leave. So you've got to see that perception, right or wrong. Don't shoot the messenger. This is where they're coming from. This is the mindset. Second thing is that they feel that seasoned workers, older workers, act more entitled and need more benefits and perks. Now, this one usually blows up too, because people say, wait a minute, it's the younger generation that's been labeled entitled. Actually not, folks. This is a surprise. The older workers may feel that way about the younger workers, but remember, there's two sides to every story, two sides to every perception. There are a lot of employers out there right now that say, wow, these older workers, they were given a lot of benefits over time. They expect more vacation time, more holiday time, more flex time. They expect more comprehensive benefits, things like that. So factor those in on top of wanting a higher salary. And all of a sudden, this is a person that's maybe twice as expensive as somebody that they can get with less experience and who by default is younger, right? So that's where that perception is coming from. Third thing, and I know this is a hard one to hear, but older workers are often perceived as working at a slower pace, that they come across with less, I want to say, not less enthusiasm, but less tenacity, less of a sense of urgency, less of a hustle. They've gotten to a cadence and a pace in their work where they say, gee, I know a lot. I'm smart enough. I don't have to work harder and hustle. I can just work smarter. I understand that. I totally get the perception. However, you're talking about an employer that is, people hear what they see. And if they see somebody that is appearing to have more hustle, more drive, more energy, that is being interpreted as a more valuable or better worker. Like it or not, it is the reality. And then the fourth one is that a lot of times seasoned workers come across like know-it-alls. If you think about it, you've spent years and years building your experience. You've gained knowledge on a lot of different subjects. You're very excited to share that knowledge. This isn't intentional by any stretch, but in sharing that knowledge and wanting to show how much you know and how much experience you have, you are actually coming across full of yourself, opinionated, right? And again, a know-it-all. And the other side of this, the other generations, candidly, the younger workers, they don't want to be around that. They want to be around people that they can get along with, that aren't acting like they're better than them, that acting like they have intellectual superiority. They're really looking to hang out with people who have more intellectual humility and are more team-based and are more sensitive and have more emotional intelligence around the people around them. So very controversial. This is going to get a lot of people riled up and angry. Get the anger out now, okay? Because the truth is, if you're over 50 and you've decided in your mind that it's all age discrimination and there's nothing you can do, and if this is the case, JT, if this is how they think, well, then forget it. There's no hope for me. Then you know what? That's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's exactly what's going to happen. But I know there's lots of you that don't want to believe that. And I know there's lots of you that don't want to be angry anymore, that don't want to be frustrated anymore. I know that you want to find some information, some answers, and change your mindset so you can get results. And you want to know something, you can get results. But it starts with some fundamental shifts in how you think and how you approach this. So if you can keep an open mind as we move forward here, I want to walk you through the 5 things you're going to need to do to compete post this crisis. All right? Okay, so let's take a look at those 5 things. So the first thing I'm going to tell you flat out is you need to be tech savvy and fast. Don't believe me? Go check out the article I mentioned by Robert Glazer. Technology is everything, folks. Look at what just happened. Everybody's been quarantined. Everybody's learning to work from home. If you can't leverage all sorts of types of technology right now, if you can't become hyper functional and successful using technology, that's a concern. Because this won't be the last time something like this happens to us. On top of that, lots of people, even in my space, were already talking about the future and the fact that this is probably going to bring about the 4th industrial revolution. And with that comes massive disruption and massive opportunities. On top of that, there are study after study that shows in the last couple of recessions, the companies that bounced back first and grew the most were tech companies. So technology is here to stay, and you need to be extremely proficient in it. I'm not just saying know what to do. I'm saying leverage it as much as you possibly can and be fast with it. Because that's the other thing. You're up against a generation that's been raised on technology. They can do things at lightning speed. So to know the technology is one thing, but to be so good at it that you can work faster and really show that hustle, that's what you're going to need to do. So the second thing I'm going to tell you is that you cannot be a Jack or Jill of all trades. This is the kiss of death of people over 50. And it happens by mistake. It's by accident, so it's not your fault, but I want you to hear me out right now, Okay. So you start out in your career, you have no experience whatsoever, right? You can't get hired because you don't have any experience. Slowly but surely, you start to get experience. You start to gain up some specialties. You start to work on different things. All of a sudden, you, over the years, have gained a lot of experience in a lot of different things. Well, that's exciting to you because you can still remember the days when you couldn't get hired because you had zero experience. So you now go into these interviews saying, I can do anything. I can do this for you. I can do that for you. I've got this. I've got that. Problem with it is that it sounds like a snake oil salesman. It doesn't sound like you have any sort of depth or focus. And I'm not the only one saying this. There's an amazing YouTube video out there that talks about something called executive presence. And I know not all of you are executives, but it's important to understand the concept of executive presence because we all have what's called professional presence. And so the studies were done, and this woman found, this college professor found through massive study that it is the perception of us being an expert in one thing that builds the foundation for people to assume that we can be smart in other things. This is why we harp on you to become a specialist. It's why at Work It Daily, we dial in our members and say, what's your specialty? What's the problem you solve? What's the pain you alleviate? How do you save companies money? How do you make companies money? When you are so clear in that one specific area and you can speak to it and explain how you do it, it gives you credibility. And at your age, if you're over 50 and you can't do this, the question becomes, well, did you ever become an expert at anything? What do you just have a lot of general knowledge, but you're not really good at one thing, good enough to prove to us that you can be an expert, which then by default would mean you would be good at other things too. So this is all mental studies and how people think. If you are over 50, you need to know what your specialty is. And then by default, you'll be considered capable of doing lots of other things. But you cannot say that you're a Jackor Jil of all trades. In fact, if you say, I'll do anything, that would be like, deciding that you want to date and going out and telling everybody, I'll date anyone. You'll get all sorts of suggestions. You'll turn those suggestions down. People will be offended that you didn't take their suggestions of who to date. And now you look like you're picky. You need to dial it in, especially if you're over 50. You need to know what your specialty is, and you need to know the kinds of companies that hire for your skill set and what you want to do at those companies. It's called a wisdom tax. You need to be able to show the wisdom of your years and your experience, and you do that by dialing in on a specialty. So the third thing, and I hinted to it already, but this is a biggie, intellectual humility. If you're walking around trying to tell everyone, look at me, I'm the best, I'm amazing, you will be seen as a narcissist, and you will also be seen as desperate. Where this comes out the worst in people over 50 is in their resumes and their LinkedIn profiles. And this happens all the time in Work It Daily. So somebody sends in their resume, we open it up, and they're over 50. It's in this fancy scripted font. It is 3+ pages long. It has a 1/2-inch margin on either side. It's in 9-point font. Every job has 15 bullet points in it, along with a descriptive paragraph. The top has a paragraph that starts with, I'm a proven and successful leader who's innovative, blah, 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 blah. And as you read through it, you're not only visually overwhelmed because it's so much information, but as a recruiter, having been in the recruiting industry, having worked with recruiters, I can tell you what happens is they look at it and a bunch of things go through their mind, especially when you need to think about the audience. Most recruiters these days, under the age of 40, they're millennials. They have a very different visual perception of what professional looks like. So they open up this, what I'm going to call old school resume, and they see this old font immediately. Yeah, age discrimination. You look old. You don't have an updated font. All this text, okay, again, visually overwhelming. You're trying to brag. You're trying to show off. You're trying to impress me. So immediately the red flag goes up. Like, why are they trying so hard? If they're that successful, I don't need this information. The facts should speak for themselves. And then again, me, I'm so great, I'm so amazing. Well, they get to the point where they're reading this and everything that you've written with all this subjective text. They go, really? Says who? Says you? This document is sending a message. And you might be thinking it's sending the greatest message in the world in your mind for your age. But all of that has changed in the last several years. Now it's about intellectual humility. The more years of experience you have, the more simplified and dialed in your resume is. It needs lots of white space. It needs to talk about your main area of expertise, and you need to have just enough bullet points on it to tease the recruiter to want to contact you. This is how you know you've done your resume right in this day and age. If a recruiter calls you and says, yeah, I saw your resume and it looks like you have all the basics we need for the job, but I really needed more information. You should put more information on your resume. You just smile and nod and say, oh, thank you, absolutely. And you don't change a thing. Because the fact that it didn't have too much information on it is the very reason they gave you the phone call. Of course, they're going to tell you to put more information on it so that they can screen you out without having to call you. So all these people over 50, you're literally screening yourself out by overdoing your resumes. You got to change it, the whole structure of it. Same thing with LinkedIn. Same exact thing. LinkedIn's just an online version of the resume in a preset format. Yet I see people all the time writing in the third person. It's your profile. Don't write your about section in the third person. Writing epic novels that nobody reads. You have got to simplify. You've got to have your brand on point, and you've got to show intellectual humility. All right, number 4, you got to give away the secret sauce. Now, this is another one that I hear people over 50 say, well, I don't want to write up a presentation and I don't want to write an article. I don't want to tell people how I do things. It's my secret sauce. This is how I got to where I am. Folks, there's no secret sauce anymore. We live in an information era. People can just absolutely log on Google search and find all sorts of things for free. Content is given away all the time. What really shows your expertise is your ability to create that content and share it with the world. You want to prove you're an expert? You need to write articles, maybe record a video, get interviewed on a podcast. Somehow, some way, you've got to show people you know what you're talking about. You don't wait and say, well, I'll tell them that when I get the interview, because you won't get the interview. You have to give away the secret sauce. We live in a time right now where that's how you build your credibility, by sharing more, not less. And this is another mistake that I see seasoned executives making all the time, which is so ironic because younger workers with less experience, they don't have nearly as much ability to create content that older, more seasoned workers have. What's the 5-step process you use to solve a problem in your type of work? What's the 3 beliefs that you have that you stick to consistently to make sure that a project gets done on time and under budget? What's your process for assessing a situation and building a game plan? You have these methodologies, these processes, these beliefs because of your experience, and you need to let people know about them. You have to explain it to them. You have to give away the secret sauce as much as you can to earn that credibility, that trust, and that respect. Okay. All right. And number 5. So let's say you can't create content. Let's say you're going, okay, JT, yeah, I have a secret sauce, but I'm not going to write. I'm not going to do a video, whatever. Okay. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. But at least curate content, folks. Curate content. What does that I mean by that? Well, are you reading articles every day, reading news sources in your industry, watching videos? Are you part of groups? You're taking in content all the time. There's got to be content that you're taking in that you're going, that's really smart. I totally agree with that. In my industry, that's exactly how we do it. Or yeah, that's how we do it in the kind of work I do. That's you validating your beliefs, your methodologies, your processes via other content. So take that content, snag it. It's called curating content. Put it in your feeds, your LinkedIn feed for starters, and comment. Comment and say, I agree with this article because it really highlights this in my industry, or I disagree with this point, or I think these 5 things are important. Write 2 or 3 sentences why that article is super valuable to your audience. Give them perspective. Give them a chance to get inside your head as a seasoned professional. And then make sure you hashtag it, especially on LinkedIn. 3 hashtags. I don't think most people understand this. LinkedIn has fully adopted a hashtag strategy. So let's say that you're in healthcare and you see a really great article on healthcare, business opportunities post-COVID. So you write why you agree with this and think everyone should read it in healthcare. And then you put hashtag healthcare. Everyone that's following that healthcare hashtag, your article goes in their feed. The little thing you commented on and posted goes in the feed for them to take a look at. This is how you get more eyeballs on your profile on LinkedIn. This is how you improve the rankings and where you come up in search results on LinkedIn. If you can't create content, gosh darn it, you curate it every single day. It is a must do as a seasoned professional. And when you know how to optimize that content on LinkedIn, you're going to do even better. But this is it, folks. These are the 5 things that you can do right now to leverage the strengths that you have and minimize the weaknesses of where you are in your career. Okay? You got to do it. So, and before I take questions, I want to mention one more thing, because we see this a lot from executives as well, and professionals who are over 50. They say, yeah, I got this. I can do it myself, JT. Yeah, I got this. I don't know what happened, but the older generation has some sort of stigma with getting help with their career. In their mind, it makes them think that they failed in some way or they're not as good. That is one of the weakest positions you can take right now. The youngest generation in the workplace right now was literally raised on coaching. They were coached their entire lives. They had coaches for everything growing up. So you want to know something great about them? They don't blink at getting help. They seek it all the time. They believe they deserve coaches, especially career coaches. They see career coaches as a path to greatness, not a sign of weakness. But for some strange reason, people over 50 think they have to do it all by themselves. Their pride, it lets up. They don't want to reach out to colleagues or mentors or people and own up and say, I'm struggling. I need a new perspective. I need some new advice. I need some new help. I need some new things. So I'll tell you what works. And it's not just me saying this. Harvard Business Review published a study on this. You cannot grow. You cannot succeed in a vacuum. So if this has been your strategy all along, where you've just sat and complained and said, I'm being discriminated against and, I'm a victim, that's exactly where you're going to stay. But if you're willing to get the 3 C's, which is courses, meaning information, new resources, new perspective, new insights, new education, right? Community, surrounding yourself with the right people and the right mindset, no snarkiness, no anger, people who are trying to level up their game, who are like you, who are positive and supporting one another, and coaching, whether you know a mentor, maybe a peer, you want to buddy up with somebody, or coaches, obviously Work It Daily. We're an option too, but I'm not saying you have to join us. I'm just saying that if you want to succeed and you're dealing with this over 50, you need the trilogy. You need the 3 C's in some form. So just promise me that you're going to go out and get these in some way. Starting here today was a great step. Being willing to open your ears, take in some new perspectives, some new content, right? Some new education. That's a great first step, but it's not the only step. You've got to reinforce that by staying positive and being surrounded by other people who are trying to accomplish the same things and have the right mindset. And you need to deal with people who are experts, who are objective, who can guide you and coach you and keep you on track and accountable. So however you do that, I am just telling you that if you're over 50, stop trying to do this alone. This is what it takes to succeed. Okay? Awesome. All right, we're going to stop there because I'm sure we have a lot of questions from all our over 50 folks, and I want to bring that up right now. Just a reminder, again, as I'm waiting for all these questions to queue up, my teammates are helping me out here. Our live training on how to get unstuck in your job search starts next week in Work It Daily. It is totally free to anybody that has an active subscription to our site. All you got to do is get a membership, and you can access the training along with 200 hours plus of additional courses, along with working one-on-one via our private messaging with our coaches and being part of an amazing community. So I hope you check it out. All right, Lori says, what fonts do you recommend for resumes? Great question, Lori. So please don't use Times New Roman. Times New Roman is that little scripty font that I see a lot of over 50 folks using. Really hard on the eyes and immediately says, I'm over 50. My advice and my favorite two are Calibre and Arial. They're clean lined, meaning straight lined, and they're not too narrow. And please also one font, not 5. Don't try to dress it up. One font, consistency and easy to read. This is about readability, folks. This isn't about looks. This is about readability and being able to absorb what's on the page. Clean line fonts are the way to do it, and only one font. Yuri says, the resume is going out. LinkedIn is the new resume. Don't you know it, Yuri? Here's the thing. If you go over to your LinkedIn profile right now, if you go up, there's a button that says more and you can click on it. You literally can have your resume saved as a PDF in 2 seconds flat. What people don't know is that because LinkedIn got bought by Microsoft, they applied their Microsoft resume template to that, and it turns your LinkedIn profile into an actual resume. So it's a great way for you to to quickly take a look at your LinkedIn profile and say, do I have enough information or too much information? If you PDF your resume, your LinkedIn profile, and the PDF is 4 or 5 pages long, too much info on your LinkedIn profile, too much. You got to pare it down. So that is a great litmus test to know where you're at with that. Tom said, I just want to chime in with a comment that as a 45-year-old professional, this is still incredibly relevant. Thank you, Tom. I agree with you. Anybody over 40 can absolutely benefit from these techniques too, because you're sort of at the top of the curve in terms of you're reaching that, peak area of knowledge and expertise in your career. What I would say to those folks is everything I just said today, do it now. Don't wait. Build up your area of specialty and expertise. Build up your capacity to show intellectual humility. Learn how to work with the younger generation to communicate with them so they're feeling the trust and respect in you. And I'll tell you something, once they trust you, once they know that you're not going to try to badmouth them, embarrass them, humiliate them, tell them they're entitled or lazy, they will become so close to you. I don't think people over 50 understand the damage that was done by millennials being told they were the laziest generation ever. I mean, the damage is there. There's a reason this whole okay boomer feud came out. So like it or not, if you're over 50, you sit in that house. They're immediately defensive. What I'm talking about today is a professional presence strategy if you're over 50 to disrupt the natural bias and discrimination people are going to have against you. And you have to do it. You can't just sit there and say it's not fair. You want to get in the game, you want to win, you have to do it. So Tom, thank you. I'm so glad you saw that. Okay, what about those of us in our 30s during this time? Does this apply to us too? Well, let me ask you, what do you think? Absolutely. These techniques work for people who want to take control of their career. We're going to come out of this thing and people are finally going to realize something I've been saying over and over again. You are a business of one. You are a service provider. You are not an employee. Every job is temporary. Your job can end at any moment, and it's on you to protect the business. Protecting the business means building the reputation. Building the reputation means assessing your professional presence and figuring out how it's perceived out there and doing everything in your power to strengthen, optimize how you present yourself out there so that you can build a strong network and make sure that should you need a new opportunity, you can very easily mobilize. So yes, these absolutely apply. The reason we focused on over 50 today is because for a lot of 50-year-olds, this can be hard, or over 50, this can be hard to hear because they were told, look, just put your head down, do what you're supposed to do, follow the rules, you'll climb the ladder and you'll be safe, right? Weren't we all told that? We were all told that. Right? I'm 52. This is what we were told. Go to school, get a degree, work really hard in a company, and everything will be okay. And now it's not okay. And I get it. People are upset and frustrated because when you first find this out, you feel like you've been cheated in some way. But we don't have time to care about that anymore. We have got to get in the game. And if you take ownership of your business of one, it means you're taking ownership of your future and you really can change the outcome. But if you're going to say, I'm helpless, this was done to me, I'm entitled, this isn't fair, that mindset is going to get you nowhere. You are literally going to stay unemployed or underemployed. But if you apply what I'm talking about today and really believe it and embrace it and leverage it, you will see results. How can I help someone over 45 in an active search to be highlighted and get visibility? Okay, that is a phenomenal question. Like total air high fives to you right now for that. Here's what you want to do. Interview them. Sit down and ask them things like, what's your methodology? What problems do you solve? What pain do you alleviate? How do you get that done? What systems do you use? What's the process? Really force those people over 45 to articulate that. Tell them to write it down, get it on paper, whatever. If you really want to do them a favor, interview them and write an article and post the interview where they gave you those answers. Now you're giving them third-party credibility. See what I'm saying? Or if they post it on their own feed, make sure you like and share it with all of the people in your network and say, hey, I know this person and I really validate, I love what they're saying. This is how we can help older workers by showcasing and highlighting their expertise that they take the time to really outline and share with the world. Notice the difference, folks. Intellectual humility is about saying, I'm so lucky. I've learned a lot in my life. These are some of the things I want to share that I could think can help the world. I know I don't have all the answers, but I want to serve the world. I want to help the world. So here's my niche. Here's my expertise. Here's my specialty. Let me see if this helps you in some way. That kind of tonality in an article shows intellectual humility. Intellectual superiority, which a lot of over 50 people do by accident, is, well, here's what I know, and this is why you have to do it this way, and this is why you shouldn't bother with this, and you should listen to me. And this whole kind of air of attitude comes out in what they're saying and doing. You have to be really careful with your word choice when you get over 50. You have to get less severe and, again, know-it-all and more balanced to show that fact that you recognize other points of view, okay? And to get your own point of view heard, okay? So definitely over 50 should work on that. If you want to help an over 50 worker, if you like what they're writing and sharing, then make sure that you share it with others. Being a creative director, Doug says, my specialization is generalization, meaning I know every role under me because I've done them all. Can you use that as a specialty? So I love this question. But so as a creative director, you still have a specialty. That is, there's some aspect or some methodology that you always take in order to be consistent in the way that you execute as a creative director. Think about it. You can't do that job unless you know how to assess every other job and define, benchmark what's going to need to be done there to make it good. So somewhere in your time as a creative director, without you realizing it, you built a process or a methodology that allowed you to assess and know exactly what pieces were going to need to be pulled together. So I challenge you, Doug, what is that methodology? Step back. One of the greatest things about teaching is we learn more. When we're told we have to teach a subject, like if I said to you, Doug, I want you to write out the 5 things you do consistently to be a consistent and solid creative director, right? And I'm picking up 5, maybe you'd pick up 7. But if I challenged you to write that article, Doug, you'd have to step back and think about all of your creative director projects. What was the same about all of them? What were the patterns and what you did consistently to get there? Now I'm going to ask you to articulate that to someone else. And just that simple step is going to change completely how you talk about yourself, how you talk about your experiences, and how you help others. This is what I mean about content. Creating and curating content to validate all of your knowledge. That is how you do it. You don't tell them, you show them. There's a huge difference there. And it's funny, one of the things that we do inside Work It Daily, we have 2 levels, right? So we have a professional level and an executive level. And people always ask, what's the executive level besides being more expensive? What it is that we understand executives more than any other professional actually have to create this type of content, right? So Doug, somebody like you as a creative director, as an executive, you have to be able to prove your methodology. So when people become a member of our executive program, once we get their career tools set up, LinkedIn, resume, cover letter, bucket list, things like that, we then move on to a phase where we have them write an article. And we pick the subject just like this. The article gets published on Work It Daily, which is our website that is top ranked. So when someone searches for you, this article is going to come up top in your search results, like a recruiter. And then we interview them for a video and a podcast so that they have what we call a content capsule. So if anybody out there over 50, if you're director level or higher, management level or higher, you essentially need a content capsule. It's an article that shares a methodology. It's a video where you're being interviewed about that. And then obviously the podcast is the audio version of that. This is a content capsule. This is something you can then use to post in your own LinkedIn feed, to reach out and introduce yourself to people. And instead of saying, hey, are you looking to hire? Say, hey, I wrote this recently on this subject. I see you guys do this. I thought you might find it of interest, right? So it's a way for you to share your knowledge and experience. I'm going to tell you a quick, amazing story. We had an executive member do a video with us, do a video interview with this content capsule, wrote an article, did a video. And right after he did this video, he put it out on his LinkedIn feed. And the next day, I kid you not, and this is doesn't always happen, but this is just such an amazing, dramatic story. The next day, he got messaged by a colleague who had been following his content, had seen the article, had seen the video, got him under NDA, and he was hired that day, no interview, because their company needed somebody with that knowledge level of expertise. And by giving away the secret sauce and by showing them his methodology, he proved he knew what he was talking about and that he was comfortable sharing it with others. So this is the new normal for anybody who wants to climb beyond. If you want to be more than an individual contributor today, folks, if you want to be a manager, a leader, executive, you are going to have to do this kind of content in order to validate yourself. Okay. Robert says, I'm in entertainment, 48 years in entertainment. That is fantastic. Every job is a gig to gig. We do many job functions. Do you have any tips? I want to join a team for predictable income. Yes, Robert. Okay. So here's the thing. One of the things we teach people inside Work It Daily to do is an interview bucket list. And I've talked about this on the show before. So I need you, Robert, with 48 years of experience in the industry. I'm pretty sure there are 10 or 20 companies that you would most like to work for full time. Yes? I want you to write those companies out, and then I want you to summarize why. What is it about each one of those companies? And I don't want to hear you heard they have a lot of money and that they're good to work for. I want to hear from a 48-year-old veteran of the business. What do you know that they are doing that is better, faster, cheaper, smarter, more innovative, ideal for your industry? Talk as an expert about each one of those companies on your list, okay? Then I want you to step back, and maybe you want to give a peer what I've been talking about. You need to not do this in a vacuum. Maybe grab a peer, have your peer read it, you read it, and the two of you come up with what are all the similarities across these companies? What do they all have in common? Promise you, do it. I challenge you. You will see patterns. You will see that a bunch of the companies all have something similar about them. This is what you're then going to latch onto, because this is what you need to build your content around. They all have a similar problem. They all solve a similar problem. They all focus on a certain persona or customer base or mindset. There's something there. And then that's what you're going to write about in order to say, I get this. I get this bigger problem. I get this thing that these types of companies are focusing on. And here's my methodology, 48 years in the business. Here's a few things that I've learned over the years and why I think they're important. And then you're going to go and share them with as many darn people at that company, at each of those companies that you can, and say, I wrote this and I know you deal with this at your company. Do you agree? What do you think? Again, intellectual humility. I came up with these ideas, but I want your feedback. I want your comments. I want a dialogue with you on it. And this is how you are going to get yourself out there. And they're going to suddenly go, wow, look at this. This person has so much experience and is willing to give it away and share their secret sauce and truly understands us. We should have a conversation with him. That's how it works today. All right. Jeannie says, I'm trying to start a new job, but COVID-19 virus is putting it off for weeks. What can I do to move it forward? Not a whole heck of a lot. And folks, any of you out there that have offers rescinded or offers on hold, I know it's hard, but please understand those companies are going through so much right now. Every single company in America, with the exception of a few who are booming as a result of COVID, right? Which is not a lot. There are a few. But almost every other company out there is just trying to figure out how to save jobs, not add jobs, and which jobs to save in order to keep the business in business when it's over. This is unprecedented. That word's been used a lot, but it's the truth. And so all you can do right now is focus on you. My advice, study, learn a new technology, gain a skill set, research things so that when you can start this job, you'll hit the ground running. You can email your manager and say, hey, are there any blogs or trainings or things that you want me to brush up on and do? I'll do that proactively on my own. Just understand that right now it's just very stressful times. And the last thing you can do is push for that job that can actually really backfire on you. Okay. Because right now they're just trying to keep people. They're trying to hang on. All right. If you've lost your job right before the pandemic, what should you put in your last job on LinkedIn? Do you still show you're employed with seeking in the title? No and no. Actually, Janice, I'm glad you asked that question. First of all, never lie on your LinkedIn profile. If your job is over, end it. Because the first time a recruiter calls you and it says that you're currently there and you ask and you say, no, I got let go, they see that as lying. Takes 2 seconds to update a LinkedIn profile, folks. I'm sorry. LinkedIn recruiters will look at it like you were fibbing and you've immediately lost their trust. So don't do it. Put an end date. A lot of people assume for some reason that if they don't have a current job on LinkedIn, you get penalized in some way. That's not legal. LinkedIn can't do that. If recruiters are searching for your skill set, you'll show up in the same way that somebody who has a current job will show up. Now, they'll show up higher if they have more keywords and if they're better optimized, but that's a topic for another day. You need to learn how to keyword optimize your profile. But you're not penalized for not having a current job. The other thing you never, ever, ever do is put seeking new opportunities in your headline. Don't ever do that. And that's because when recruiters come in and use the recruiting tool in LinkedIn, what they get is the first 50 people that match all the criteria they put in. And what they see is your headshot and your headline. And if they say seeking new opportunities, you've just told them you're unemployed, and they are naturally going to discriminate against you. That is just a common fact. We know that people discriminate against the unemployed. It's just, and it's unfortunate and it's wrong. But if your headshot's there and you've keyword optimized your headline and they click through and they read a really solid summary, then when they get to the work history and see you're not working, they're less obliged to toss you. But if it's literally there in the search results, you're not even going to get clicked on. So you never put that in there ever. Okay, Nicholas said, should we pay for a professional service to write our resume and cover letter and rewrite our LinkedIn profile? No, absolutely not. And I have a big issue with this, and here's why. Remember, folks, I was in HR and recruiting for many years. I started my own career coaching practice back in 2002, and I started this company in 2008, all right? My issue with resume writing, LinkedIn profile, cover letter is that they charge you a ridiculous amount of money, and their customer is not recruiters and employers. Their customer is you. So what they do, you, the person that isn't a recruiter, isn't a hiring manager, and doesn't know the latest techniques, they write something to try to make you feel good about yourself. So I can't tell you how many times people come into Work It Daily after spending hundreds, sometimes thousands. Executives will mistakenly spend thousands of dollars on a resume rewrite. We open it up, and it's exactly what I was talking about earlier, and it just upsets me so much. It is literally why I started Work It Daily. So you see this resume that's all self-important. It's 5 pages long. It sounds so fancy. And they say to me, I paid really good money to have this done, but I'm not getting any bites. And I'm saying, of course you're not, because you look narcissistic, self-important, and you've put too much information on here. And they're saying, but I had a resume writer do it. Right. But their job was to impress you so that they could charge you more money. This is the thing. You need to learn how to do your own career tools. End of story. You want to be in power? You want to wake up one day and suddenly get into gear and start a job search? Do you want to have to wait to have somebody else do your career tools, especially when it is so easy to do? So easy to do. You watch a video tutorial, you get a template, you fill it out in 30 minutes, you send it to a career coach, the career coach reviews and signs off on the template, resume done, LinkedIn profile done, cover letter done. That's what we do at LinkedIn, at Work It Daily. And we cost less than your coffee. So no, please don't waste that money. Save it for the things that you really need and find a reliable and affordable way to get that advice, okay? But people throw money at their job search and think, well, if I spent all this money, then I'm naturally going to get a job faster because I spent money. It's not how it works, folks. You get a job faster when you know what to do and how to do it strategically, and they are not teaching you that. School didn't teach you that, and a resume writer and a LinkedIn profile and a cover letter writer are not going to teach you that either. Okay, you need to learn it for yourself. Empower yourself. Give yourself the skills that you need to succeed. Okay, whether it's with us or somebody else, but you got to get the tools and the ability and the skills. So important. Okay, so listen, just a reminder, last week we launched a free webinar called Laid Off and Looking. Over 2,000 people have already signed up for it. You immediately get a PDF. It's a 4-page PDF that you download once you sign up for it. You get immediate access to the training. It was with myself and their head of coaching at Work It Daily. And we break down the strategy that you need to be so much smarter in your job search. We got a lot of incredible feedback from people on that session. So we've posted the link for you. Please make sure that you check it out, especially if you've been laid off, or, pay it forward. If you know someone who's been laid off, make sure they get access to this free tutorial as well. Okay. And then again, don't forget, all you members out there or potential members, starting next week, how to get unstuck in your job search, live training, 30 minutes every day. And you get to watch the recording if you can't attend live. Great way for you to work it daily, right? We know that when we work it daily, we win. When we build good habits, we win. We learn and grow. You don't have to spend hours doing this, but I promise you, we'll get you addicted. Once you start doing this and you see the power of the environment that you're in, the community, the resources, and the training, you're going to want to power up your career. So go check it out. You can join for a single month if you want to, just to test it out. But I promise you, you're going to fall in love with it. You're not going to want to leave us once you do. Awesome. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope this helped. Please take the time to go back through these 5 tips if you're over 50. You can do this, but it is going to be up to you. All right. And until next time, remember what we always say, if you want to win, you've got to work it daily.